Good afternoon. Welcome to the City Council Informational Meeting. The meeting will start in 60 seconds.
Thank you for attending today's informational meeting, Tuesday, June 23rd, 2015. The first item on the agenda will be an update from the Land Use Committee from a meeting on Tuesday, June 16th, 2015.
Okay, thank you very much. The discussion centered mostly on a proposal by Councilor Karski dealing with off-sale alcohol code proposed changes. The goal would be to possibly lead to some changes that would help alleviate nuisance incidents and things associated with that. Some of the items that were discussed in this discussion then associated with that, single-serve alcohol and why this is a problem, operating hours of alcohol for single-serve containers. Alcohol impact areas were discussed in other communities that have implemented such areas, and some other different approaches that other communities have taken in resolving this particular issue. So discussion followed, and we will be hearing more from Councilor Karski this next month on that particular issue. At least that's what the plan is as of this time.
Okay. Any questions from the council? Okay, I don't see any. In the order of presentations here, we're going to move the City Council open discussion till after the Mayor's CIP presentation. So that will be the next item on the agenda. So now we will have the presentation of the 2016-2020 capital presentation by the Mayor.
Council Chair Anderson Jr., thank you so much for the opportunity. Councilors, thank you so much as well. This is the a 5-year capital improvement plan budget that I'm going to present to you. But before I do, I just wanted to recognize and thank a number of folks that have been along me on this journey. You can't imagine the amount of time and effort and hours and energy that is spent on this particular plan, as well as the budget, the operating plan that is soon to come. Of course, that effort is led by Tracy Turback, Tom Huber, Janelle Zaire, and so many others on the finance team, all the financial analysts, along with the department heads and all the other people that are on those teams. So I just want to recognize all of them before we start. Moving on into the presentation, I just wanted to start by saying council and citizens of Sioux Falls, we do certainly have a track record of getting stuff done. So much that we've invested of that taxpayer dollars has gone to getting things done for our great community called Sioux Falls, such as 340 miles of streets have been repaired just in over the last 5 years. A ton of utility improvements throughout the city of Sioux Falls. The flood control levy, and we'll certainly be hearing more about that and reaping the rewards of that investment soon. You'd have to be living under a rock not to know about our $117 million new event center and all of the great things that are happening since that has been open. Phase 1, Phase 2 of the River Greenway, is now flourishing and doing so well. The indoor ice complex and the indoor tennis complex out there at the Sanford Sports Complex. Of course, the investments in the Sanford Sports Complex and all the activity that is driven out there. Bike trail expansion, including all the spurs and the improvements to our wonderful bike trail, again, which will be highlighted this Saturday at the Tour of Sioux Falls. Neighborhood parks and all the money that we've invested into that. And then when you throw in, there's 5 brand new parks as well that we've invested in as a city over the last 5 years. This fire station that we're so proud of, and of course, Prairie West Library that is serving the west side of our town in such an admirable way. We have spent a lot of money, a lot of taxpayer money over the last 5 years, and it's been over $530 million that has been spent over the last 5 years, as you can see. And we are actually projecting this year to spend another $146.5 million in 2016 alone. I do want to talk about something that I think is critically important, and that is that we have incurred some debt. We certainly have. When you can't build a $117 million event center and not incur some debt, and of course you can see how the city has increased its debt load. However, we have a very, very solid plan and a responsible plan to pay down that debt. We are certainly living within our means. We are financially strong, maybe one of the most financially solid communities in all of America. And our goal is that by 2019, 2020, we're right back to where we started in 2010. Counselors, I also want to let you know that we are always looking at whether we can repay debt ahead of time as well. That first opportunity will come in 2017. Let's talk about this 5-year plan, Council, that we've been spending so much time and effort on. We are looking at investing $556.6 million over the next 5 years. Next year alone, we're budgeting around $133 million. This will be the second largest capital improvement plan in our city's history. The only plan that has exceeded it was back in 2009, and that was $564 million. Where does this money come from that goes to pay for these critical investments in our town? You can see that up on the screen or in front of you, the major sources, but truly it comes down to 2. That second penny sales tax makes up 46, almost half of all the dollars that we spend towards capital in Sioux Falls. And then, yes, user fees makes up another quarter in a very, very large percentage of the revenues. Now, where does the money go? We're bringing it in, but yes, we're also going to invest it. So where does that money go? We have a history in Sioux Falls and in government, and as we should. 40% goes towards highways and streets, 35% goes towards utilities, and then the other large piece of the pie goes towards culture and recreation, things like parks and so on. One thing that I wanted to certainly let the people of Sioux Falls know is that when they speak, we really do listen. Not only this mayor and the 1,200 proud employees that work for it, but also this city council. You folks have a history of listening to the citizens and then reacting accordingly. If there's one thing that I've learned, even when I was running for mayor, and certainly over the 5 years that I've been blessed by this opportunity, that time and time again, our citizens want us to invest in streets and in infrastructure. In fact, 98%, they said that it's very, very important that we invest our existing tax dollars in our streets. Well, this plan is going to do that and more. This will be the largest investment, the largest plan in our city's history in terms of investing in our roads. We will be repairing, replacing, and rebuilding roads at a level that has never been done before in the city of Sioux Falls if the council moves forward with this plan. So how are we going to do that? Well, we're going to try something unique to Sioux Falls, but we think it's an incredible investment, and that is we're actually going to drive all of the streets within our town. 75 miles of roads, square miles of roads. We are going to rank them. We are going to rate them using this incredible technology. It's a vehicle with a laser scanner that goes around and it evaluates the streets, the quality of the streets. You know, what is it seeing? Are there potholes? Are there thermal cracks? Are there things like that? This technology will allow us to do that. And then what we can do is spend these tax dollars in such a more prudent and efficient way and get a bigger bang for our taxpayer dollars. We'll do that not only this year, but in future years as well to ensure that we spend our money wisely. So what does that mean? Well, in 2016 alone, this plan, if approved by the council, will repair 290 blocks of road in terms of street rehabilitation. $35 million will go to asphalt streets, and another $14 million will go to concrete streets. Major street construction. And I'll tell you one thing that folks, you need to understand is that none of this is getting any cheaper. In this plan, we're looking at around $36 million to be spent on major street reconstruction. That's not only roads, but it's also bridges. And you certainly have been paying more and more attention to the expense of these bridges. In this plan, we're going to talk about the 12th Street Bridge, which I know you're familiar with. Louise Avenue getting repaired from 43rd to 49th Street, probably the or one of the busiest streets in all of South Dakota. Madison Street from West Avenue to Louise. Minnesota Avenue from Russell Street to 8th Street. And then, yes, another bridge right in the heart of our community, the 8th Street Bridge. Let's take a minute just to talk about the 12th Street Bridge. This is a bridge in the heart of our town, in one of the busiest streets in all of South Dakota, that needs to be repaired. And in fact, it needs to be repaired right now. But oh my goodness, is it one expensive bridge. When we're done, we're looking at about $9.3 million that we're going to spend on one bridge alone within the city of Sioux Falls. You know that phase one is underway right now. That's about $1.3 million. But we do have to come up with another $8 million to fund this bridge. Council, I want to just kind of walk you through this very, very briefly. The way that we're encouraging the council to move forward with this is we have reprioritized some 2016 street projects in the amount of $5.4 million. We are recommending that we push back the archive building that was led by Councilor Erpenbach. We are encouraging that the council and this city move that back to 2020. Then we'll take those dollars, that $1.3 million, and put it towards this bridge, as well as there are some other capital funds in the 15 budget that were set aside for this project to make up that $8 million additional funds that we need to invest within the city of Sioux Falls for this bridge. When I was elected mayor back in 2010, one of the very first things that I did is I did put a priority on rebuilding, replacing the inner core streets of our town. And yes, ultimately, I did take some heat and some criticism for doing that. We did move or reprioritize or recommend some changes within the spending towards from those arterial roads towards repairing and rebuilding the inner core roads of our city. Well, the plan in 2016, because as you know, this is America's next boomtown. The plan is to spend about $10 million on some major expansion projects for our city as well. And you can see those, whether it be Maple Street, Sycamore Avenue from 57th to 69th in terms of improving that service. 69th Street from Bonson to Greystone, more paving, and then, yes, North Marion Road from I-90 to the north. We have to keep one step ahead of this growth, and these additional dollars will certainly do that. We're going to double the spending on our arterial roads as well in 2016 from where we were in 2011 and 2012. Downtown. I don't know if you're aware of this, council or citizens of Sioux Falls, but you know we certainly do invest in downtown, in those downtown streets. But here's just a little something for you to always remember. When you have a block of downtown street and you try to you want to repair that or rebuild it or replace it, it's $1 million investment per block, versus a $100,000 investment per block outside of downtown. But we think it's important. We think it's something that should be done and should continue. So within this plan, we're investing a little over $8 million towards downtown streets in the years to come. The big project in 2016 will be 2nd Street from Main Avenue to Phillips Avenue. Utilities. This is something that I'm incredibly proud of, and prior mayors, prior councils, they have paid attention to utilities and the investment required within this in a big way. I'm proud of this council. We have tackled some of the rates, tackled some of the fees, tackled some of these really challenging things, all in the spirit of staying one step ahead of this aging infrastructure, staying one step ahead of this growth that we've got going on, staying one step ahead of the needs for infrastructure, not only above the ground, but below the ground as well. And we're going to continue to do that. You can see on the plan, this is a huge plan when it comes to investing in our utilities, whether it be electric, light, water, or water reclamation. In 2016, next year, the plan that we're recommending to the council and to the people of Sioux Falls, it does include $7.7 million for the Foundation Park investment that was, or the Foundation Park announcement that was just made, and an additional $8.4 million for an outfall sewer project that we've got planned. Let's talk about Foundation Park just a little bit, because you know we certainly celebrated that park as a team. The state, Sioux Falls Development, Forward Sioux Falls, the City of Sioux Falls, the citizens of Sioux Falls. We certainly celebrated that wonderful announcement. But it doesn't come for free. It does not. Right now, and I think it was Councilor Staggers had asked about a week ago in terms of, do you have an idea of what this could maybe cost the citizens? Councilor Staggers, it's an appropriate question. Right now, within the plan, we are looking at investing about $10.5 million in Foundation Park. We are heavily invested in this beast of a project. But as you know, economic development, it doesn't come for free. It is expensive. We think it's worth it. So what we'll do is we're looking at streets, we're looking at water main installation, and yes, we're looking at sanitary sewer installation to get Foundation Park up and running. You've also heard another grand announcement that was just made last week in terms of a new public parking facility. Within this budget, within this plan, we do have that in there. A $600 a public parking structure where we've got a public-private partnership going on that's unbelievably exciting. But, again, it is an expensive project. It's $12 million of city investment that we'll use to stay one step ahead of this booming growth that's happening in our downtown. You know, people living there, people playing there, people working there. Well, they also need a place to park, and this will certainly do that. How are we going to pay for it? Cash, some bond funds, but ultimately we think it's the prudent thing to do. As you know, counselors, whether you've been here for 1 year or you've been here for 8 years, our citizens love our parks. And oh my goodness, do they want us to invest in them? And we've been doing it, as you know. It's no surprise that we've been spending a lot of money in our parks since I've been blessed to be your mayor. And you can see some of the numbers up above. And I think it's been a great investment. We are recommending that we continue to do that within this plan as well. These are big numbers, 2014 to 18, 2015 to 19, and now 2016 to 20. You can see we still want to invest a lot of money in our parks, and we think it's the prudent thing to do. So just kind of give you a little flavor. What does this go for? You know, this culture, this parks, this recreation. What are some of these monster investments that we've made? Here's just a few since 2010. Phase 1 and Phase 2 of our River Greenway, $9 million. Our zoo, another almost $5 million. Sanford Sports Complex, another $4 million in that public-private partnership. These neighborhood parks, you know, whether it be building new ones or repairing the ones that we have. Prairie Green, that new clubhouse, almost $2 million. Indoor ice, we made that investment in indoor ice and indoor tennis, and we're reaping the rewards for that. And then, of course, this bike trail that we're just so proud of. We've invested another $1.5 million in that since 2010. So what's next when it comes to our parks? Where do we want to spend some additional funds? Council, we're recommending that we spend an additional $41 million on our community's parks. We are. You know, what are some of the big projects? Of course, this indoor aquatics facility that will be done by the fall of 2016. River Greenway, Phase 3 of that River Greenway, we want to talk to you more about that, Council. More spurs, more expansion, more access to our bike trail, rebuilding some of these existing parks. And yes, we're going to talk about Falls Park West just a little bit more with you today. This indoor aquatics facility, I don't want to spend too much time, but we are building it right the very, very first time. And it is almost $24 million of taxpayer money that we are not borrowing money for. We are paying cash for it, but we're going to do it right, and you're certainly going to be proud when it is done. Let's talk about the River Greenway. Council, we're recommending that we move this project up at least 1 year to 2017, okay? And why? Well, because we are redeveloping that west side of that west bank of the river. We're talking about redeveloping it. And the way that you do it in the most efficient, productive, and yes, taxpayer-friendly way, and the way you get the biggest bang for your buck, is that you redevelop that Phase 3 of the River Greenway at the same time private businesses or public investments are being made right alongside it. It's the prudent thing to do. I'm not a construction manager. I don't know, and that's probably the last thing you want me to do is to get on any heavy equipment. But I think you know it just makes common sense that if we're gonna have public and private investments along that river bank, we might as well complete Phase 3 of the River Greenway at the same time. The bike trail. It's probably never been better than what it is. And again, we're going to highlight that on Saturday with Tour Sioux Falls, but we're not done. We do want to add some additional spurs there at Cherry Creek, as well as out to Great Bear. But we also want to do some repairs and some expansion as well, and you can see some of those there with the Marion Road to the flood control dam, as well as 12th Street to Maple Street, and there will be much more than those as well. Van Ness was certainly in the news last year, and it's not in the news very much this year at all, thanks to the leadership of the council. But let's put it back in the news. Let's get Van Epps back in the news a little bit. Let's celebrate Van Epps. It certainly has the potential to be the shining star for Sioux Falls, South Dakota. Certainly, you've got more cars driving by Van Epps than probably any other park, other than maybe some of those on the interstate. Let's create another downtown showplace, Sioux Falls, called Van Epps. We want to tie it in with that new administrative office building that we're talking about, and that we'll talk about more. A shelter, walkways, lighting, landscaping. We really want to create a showplace. And so to do that, we are recommending that we spend $556,000 in this plan to do just that. We want to rebuild some existing parks. Again, we want a park within a half mile of every home in this town. It's not cheap to do that, but we also think it's been a prudent investment. But some of these things do deteriorate over time, and you have to invest right back into them. Well, Sioux Falls, we are coming to a park near you. If we haven't replaced your park or repaired your park or built your park yet, we're coming. We're going to get there with this plan. We are. I could, Family Park, Laurel Oaks, Glenview, Frank Olson, Meldrum, Veterans Park, Dugan, Linwood, Terrace, Menlo, Keene, Heritage, Marion, Baker, Lyon, Centennial, Lyon, Todd Hill, Whittier, Morningside, Sherman, the Sioux Falls Canary Stadium, Kenny Anderson, McKinnon, McCart, Sertoma. We're coming, Sioux Falls. We value these parks. We want all of them up to our standards, no matter what your income level, no matter where you live. We want them all at the level of pride as all the other parks in town, and so we're coming, and we're really excited about them. Falls Park, such a show place already. Thanks to the leadership of prior mayors like Mayor Munson and prior councils, but we think that it's time for even more. We're recommending an additional $5 million investment into Falls Park, whether it be the horse barn that we renovate, visitor center improvements, some irrigation needs. We do think it's a prudent investment, and there is a piece that we're going to talk more about, Council, and you're certainly going to have a bunch of questions on this, and we're ready for them. We are recommending that we partner with a private group as well here in Sioux Falls to create a Levitt Pavilion partnership. We have moved it back a year in coordination with this private group to allow some additional time for fundraising. But it would be a partnership with the Levitt Foundation. It'll support special events and festivals for all the people in our city. And we'll talk about it. It's an amphitheater, some pathways, some parking. But again, it's just one more example of a private-public partnership that all of Sioux Falls will ultimately reap the rewards for. There's other things that we're invested in as well. Streets, parks, utilities. But if you're going to run a government with 1,200 city employees, you also have to have a solid place for them to work. We've told you a little bit about the new administrative office building that has been proposed. We're going to start by studying this even more in 2016. Because I think you all want to know what's a good cost estimate. We don't have that yet, and we need to do that. However, we have put within this budget at least a $1 million debt service per year within this budget. So you folks should certainly be aware of that, and that is in this plan. We celebrated Fire Station number 11, and oh my goodness, in this boomtown, we also have to already get ready to look at Fire Station number 12. This map kind of gives you a flavor of where we're already at and where we're proposing to build our next fire station. It's planned for 2018. It's not cheap. It's a $3 million investment. And right now, we have it planned for the southeast Sioux Falls near 41st Street and Faith. And as you know, that part of town is really hopping right now. Keeping people safe is a very, very important part of our job. It's not only our fire team, but also it's our police team as well. We are in dire need within our fire range to improve that. And I mean that, in dire need. I think Chief Barthel, Assistant Chief Burns, and others, they are going to express to you just how important it is that we improve that firing range. But again, it's not cheap. You're looking at almost $1 million in investments that we want to do out there, not only in 16 but also in 19. I want to end on a note, Council, and that is this is certainly not an easy process. I'd love all of us to educate the people of Sioux Falls, these 175,000 people that choose to live here. I would really love to educate every single one of them on just how difficult this process is, not only for me, not only for the finance team, not only for the department heads and the 1,200 proud city employees, but also how hard a process this is for our city council. It's a beast. And there's many, many times where you don't make friends when you're involved in this budgeting process. And council, I'm going to give you probably a little flavor of what at least my team has been dealing with as we've been going through this budget process. The confidence in our town probably has never been higher than what it is right now. At that same time, we've got these visionaries, these investors, these builders, these dreamers that want to come to me, they want to come to the team, and they're going to come to you with these dreams, with these visions, with these great ideas, and at the same time, they're going to say, and we need your financial support as well. The hard thing is that, yeah, sure, we're gonna approve some of them, but you're going to get put into a position where you may even have to say no. Or at a minimum, council, you're going to have to say not yet. I have been very positive about the status of our town, and I'm going to continue that. We're doing well. Revenues are coming in a solid fashion. We like the trends and the trend lines that are in front of us. We like it. Here's harsh reality. These funds are not unlimited. Our taxpayers, they want us to live within our means. This prioritization thing that we're going to do is very, very hard. But we've done it in the past, and we'll do it again with this CIP. And with that, we're here to support you, Council. My team, these 1,200 city employees and the department heads and the finance team, they're ready to answer any questions that you may have on any topic, and we certainly look forward to it. When we're all done, we will create a very, very prudent and responsible plan, just like we've always done. We will live within our means like we've always done. And yes, Council, we're going to keep celebrating, just like we've been doing since 2010. We're going to celebrate that we are getting things done. Councilors, I want to thank you for this opportunity. We appreciate it, and we look forward to more dialogue in the months to come. Councilor Anderson Jr., Council Chair Anderson Jr., thank you for this opportunity.
Thank you, Mayor.
Make it a great day. Or, I'm sorry, if there's questions, I can certainly answer them now, or whatever you prefer.
Any preliminary questions from Councilman Jamison?
Mayor, I'm not sure what you just walked into, but by asking that question, but thank you for asking us for our input and response. It's unusual at this time, I would tell you. On your proposal for that downtown parking, it talked about a $12 million investment. I think some of us had remembered it being $10 million, and there was some borrowing and some cash. Could you just elaborate a little bit on where that money is, where the cash is coming from, and how much you're proposing to borrow?
And Councilor Jameson, I'm going to have to defer to probably the community development team led by Darren Smith, along with the finance team, and those specifics. Tracy, the finance team, and Darren can dive into that more. If it's a specific question about a certain thing, I'm probably not, I don't know if I'll be the best one to answer that. We can try to answer that right now, though, Councilor Jameson, if you'd like.
Sure, I think that's on the top of mind for some of us.
Sure.
Yes.
Please. Darren Smith, Community Development.
Thank you, Darren Smith, Director of Community Development. Well, I'll be very brief. The short answer, Councilor Jameson, is that all of those funds for the parking ramp are parking system user funds. So as you know, the parking system is an enterprise fund. It is completely self-supported, 100% parking user funds in terms of the cash up front, what we have in our reserves today, combined with, if there are bond proceeds that are used to build the ramp, of course, they would be paid back with parking funds exclusively.
Right, okay, so that makes sense. There's no sales tax dollars being used for the bonding, and the cash is from your reserve, not from sales tax.
That's correct.
Borrowing. Very good, thank you.
All right. Thank you, Mayor.
You bet. Make it a great day. Thank you, Council. Appreciate it.
All right, moving forward here. Next on the agenda would be open discussion. Do we have any items for open discussion? Councilman Staggers.
Yes, Jim. Well, first of all, let me mention, I certainly appreciated the mayor's presentation here on how the city of Sioux Falls is going to be spending money in the upcoming years. However, I think it's important too, unfortunately at this time, to say something about how maybe citizens in Sioux Falls are treated. What happened, at least with my wife and myself, is that we attended an event at Terrace Park this last Saturday. And my council members here probably know what I'm going to be talking about now, because there's been a concern that there were a number of tickets given Saturday afternoon in the Terrace Park area. And we got one of those tickets. And the question that my wife and I were wondering about is, how reasonable is this ticket? Around 1 o'clock Saturday afternoon, my wife and I went to our car. This is our car right here. And we saw a ticket on the car. And right away, we were wondering, why did we get a ticket? And the ticket was supposedly we were parking too close to the intersection here. The car is located on Menlo, and we were parking too close to the intersection, and we broke city ordinance. Well, you can see here, we have this measuring taking place. One of the neighbors in the neighborhood gave us a tape where we could measure, and we measure out 25 feet. Jim, I don't know if you can get the rest of the end of the tape where it is or not. No, it's not it. Yeah, just maybe flip it on the side of the phone. There we are, yes. Okay, there's our car, and here's the curb for the street. So there's 25 feet. And we got a ticket because, according to the police officer, you know, people driving down the street here might have a difficult time seeing traffic on Menlo because of our car. Well, the neighbors in the neighborhood were surprised that we got a ticket, but also let me mention too, there were other cars at this intersection who also got tickets too. So we're not the only ones that got a ticket. But eventually I did talk to the police officer and mentioned that it didn't seem reasonable to get a ticket for something like this. And he said, no, you broke code. And so the result is my concern that we had a number of people Saturday afternoon in the Terrace Park area that got tickets like this. And many people would probably say, is this reasonable or not? So what I'm requesting of the City Council is to take a look specifically at this code that was supposedly violated and maybe make some changes along with other changes in code like this, because I've been told up in this area there's been a lot of tickets given for different traffic issues. Myself, I'm going to go through the process of appealing this, and because in reality, I was talking about 25 feet distance there. The code talks about 20. And so there's maybe a difference of opinion between the police officer and myself as to whether I really broke the code or not. But I'm also concerned about those other people in the area Saturday afternoon. So that's all I'm doing, is requesting the City Council to take a look at this issue, and I'll continue to go through the procedure to appeal this ticket.
Thank you, Councilor Staggers. Councilor Erfenbach?
New topic? Is that okay?
New topic?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. I just wanted to go back to the CIP presentation, thank the mayor for his presentation, and just then ask staff if we have, and leadership, if we have scheduling yet for when we start kind of digging into this. You know, this is always nice to have sort of the broad overview, but we spend a lot of time in the next several weeks really digging deeply into this. I just wondered if we knew that yet, or is that coming in the next couple
That
weeks?
is coming here in probably within the next week to 10 days.
I guess I would also then remind folks that it is on siouxfalls.org, yes, so that it's available to the public. And if the public has things that they want to talk to us about with it, our email addresses are there as well. And I always encourage folks, and I hear quite often from people about things that are in the CIP and in the broader general operating budget that'll be here in the next few weeks too. So I just encourage folks to get in contact with us. That's what summer's about for City Council, is budgets. So
Thank you, Councilor. Councilor Karski, do you have time to do your presentation?
I think so, yeah.
Okay.
It won't take very long. 2 weeks ago, we had an open discussion at our informational meeting about how our ordinances apply to a TNC or a transportation network company like Uber or Lyft, and Councilor Staggers made a comment about how we were in a hurry to regulate such free market competition, and I believe he's right. We shouldn't be trying to apply our existing ordinances to a system that they're ill-devised to work with.
And I'll turn on my microphone so you can hear me better. So, where am I going with this? We create ordinances such as our vehicle for hire ordinances in the name of public safety, and most people and companies that they apply to get that, but like a business with a plan, we try to have to be open to what's happening in the marketplace. And I've asked Jim David to help me by contacting Uber to see if they have any input for us to consider based on their experience around the world and across the United States for making our community an easier place to do business. And while at the same time keeping public safety as a priority. So we have a brief outline on some of the approaches that other communities have used for these transportation network companies and what we can do. Please, Jim. I know we got to be done by 10-2 to turn over for.
Please.
our county meeting. So.
Thank you, Councilor Karski. Jim David, Legislative Operations Manager for the council. When you talk about Uber, Lyft, there's other companies called Sidecar, Wings, and Summon. These are really what they're called in other ordinances across the country, transportation network companies, or TNC. And these are just companies that are based on software applications within a mobile device or within a smartphone, and that connects to the user, the passenger. Now, the other part of the equation is a transportation network operator, and this is just an individual that operates a vehicle that he or she owns or they lease. And this really is, the mobile device is the way that connects the driver with the consumer. And looking at some ordinances across the country, whether it's Springfield, Illinois, Chattanooga, Tennessee, Tulsa, Oklahoma, there are other examples out there. But in Springfield, Illinois, they actually require that a TNZ, which could be an Uber, could be a Lyft, register with their municipality. And in Springfield there you'll see it's a $1,500 annual fee. In Chattanooga it's a $5,000 initial fee, and then each subsequent year is $3,500. In Tulsa it ranges between $300 to $1,200. That's based upon the number of vehicles within their fleet. Just kind of give you a perspective, in Sioux Falls current ordinance, the first vehicle for a vehicle for hire is $50, and each subsequent vehicle is $25 extra. The per mile rate with a TNC, that is set at their discretion. Some of them actually have a rate, and then during rush hour it does increase in order to incentivize drivers to come on board and to provide additional transportation. These TNCs, they're self-inspected within our own ordinance. It's 3,000 miles or 3 months, whichever is less, self-inspections, and then an additional annual certified inspection. Some of the ordinances do require a driver's license. And then also just kind of additional information on the apps, it does have the picture display of the TNC driver and their license plates number for additional safety and security of the passenger. And then just a comparison with the background checks. Uber has across the board 7-year background check. They no DWIs in the last 7 years or drug-related infractions, no hit-and-run accidents, fatal accidents, no history of reckless driving, no violent crimes, sexual offenses, gun-related violence, no resisting, evading arrest, no driving without insurance or driving, and they have their own background check process. And there you'll see the city ordinance and what we require, really depending on the crime, 2 to 5 years for DUI, depending if it's a felony conviction. Hit and run is 2 years. A crime of violence is 10 years. And then any type of sex crime, or if you're on the sex offender registry, that's an immediate, you do not qualify. And then indecent exposure is 5 years. And then the city does have a felony possession distribution of controlled substances at 5 years. So just a brief comparison for what we have and then what other cities have done with these TNZs. So,
if I may, thank you, Jim. What I'd like to do, with your permission, Councilor Anderson, is take this to the Public Service Committee. We did a pretty extensive rewrite of our existing ordinance on vehicle for hire not that long ago. My mic's on, right? Okay. And I'm not proposing that we modify that in any way, but that we add a separate category. Our marketplace is changing. We have a free market system. I think these recommendations came from Uber. This is what they've seen in other communities, and they're comfortable doing business this way. So I'd like to take it to our Public Services Committee as a recommendation.
And our Public Service Chair?
That would be fine. We'd be happy to take that on and review it in more in depth.
I think that would be the right place to put it. Any other questions, Councilor Rolfing?
Can I ask one of Jim? As I understood Uber and those that they're individuals who want to make a little extra money and they've got to have a certain colored car and they got to do all this and that kind of thing, go through the hoops. Maybe not a certain colored car, but they've got that. How can, if they're individuals doing this, how can they have a fleet?
Well, it just fleet's probably not the correct word. It's just the number of drivers they have in the city. If you have 5 drivers that have registered, gone through the background process, maybe there's 10.
Talking about 5 individual drivers, not one person having to use Uber, and then he having 4 subs under him.
No, it's what the format that I've seen with TNCs is that they are part-time individuals. It might be a teacher, it might be a stay-at-home mom, it might be somebody looking for extra cash. They work 3 hours, 4 hours a day or a week. There's that kind of a relationship.
The word fleet didn't match up with what we were talking about. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Jim, and thank you, Counselor. With that, I will end the informational meeting, and next we will have the joint meeting with the Minnehaha County Commission.